Hey, Critical Analysis, this is your video for week 7, which means a couple things. We are almost to spring break, and we are almost to the halfway point of our semester, both very positive things. This is your video going to be, as I mentioned, week 7, chapter 5. This runs from March 1st through 7th. Before I jump in, though, I want to just kind of remind you, or maybe make you aware if you're not already, when you go into the content area of our course, there is the mastery skills. Some of you have really been working, some of you have not touched any of them yet. You have to pass this part of the class to pass the entire class. You have to have an 80% on this part of the class to pass this class. So what I've done inside this folder, though, is before every single skill, you can see that there is a video there. So I really do help walk you through the skills as much as I can. Most of them have 9 to 10 questions, and I usually do anywhere from like 7 to 8 questions with you, meaning you only have a few left to do on your own. So please make sure that you view those videos. There are 2 post-tests in every mastery skill. You only need to do one. If you don't do well on one of them, then you can take the second one. But if you're watching my videos, you should be getting at least like 80% on those videos at the very least. So keep that in mind, please. Make sure that you are working on your mastery skills and use those videos as assistance. Also, as a reminder, I do vocabulary separate from the actual text video. So for instance, I've already done the vocabulary video for week 7. So if you go into the assignment folder, the video for vocabulary is always right before the actual quiz. So that'll help you walk through just the vocabulary of the chapter. All right, so that being said, we're going to go ahead and get into our chapter. We're in chapter 5. So in my online textbook, our topic of chapter 5 is e-commerce, internet marketing. So this is another one of those chapters where some of you might be like a business major, a marketing major, but all of us, because we're in this class, use the internet at the very least for online courses. Odds are you use it for other things. You buy and sell things online, you interact online. So internet marketing is, even if it's not your major, it's more than likely something that you do and engage in even without knowing. So that's the beginning of our chapter. If I get into our actual assignments here, our week 7 discussion board, this is just like the past couple discussion boards. It's based on our subject area of the chapter, and it's coming from the beginning of the chapter questions. So it is asking you, how often do you purchase products and services online? What types of items do you usually buy online? Has your online shopping experience mostly been positive? If not, what are the negatives? So that is one of the questions here. So again, I'll kind of scroll down. You can see the question embedded right here, question number 1. So again, that's something that we would normally talk about in a face-to-face environment. You posting your kind of thoughts on these allows for that interchange that we would normally have in a classroom setting. Also kind of scrolling down, it's kind of an interesting cartoon. We have a cartoon here that has, this jeweler looking through his little glass here saying, well, it looks genuine. So I think it's kind of a commentary on how we often have to be very careful with what we see and do online, because it can look authentic, it can feel and look real, but we always have to make sure we're evaluating those things very carefully, especially when it comes to the commerce side of it, the putting our credit card information in and buying and selling online. So it's just something to think about with this topic. So I'm going to go ahead and get our chapter PowerPoint up and ready, because we are going to talk about chapter 5. Again, it's on e-commerce, specifically internet marketing, and the specific reading skill is on making inferences. So the very first kind of slide that goes along with that topic is looking at, and it's very maybe strange at first, but looking at this stone here, we obviously hopefully can infer that this is someone who has passed away. So what do you know about this person? Well, we know that this was someone who was married, that they served in a military capacity when they died, who was a father. You can also figure out what's not being said. Sometimes on here you can't tell when this person was born. You can't tell, what kind of life they led. So inferences are logical conclusions based on facts. Okay, so an inference is a logical conclusion based on facts and clues. If you've ever heard the phrase like, read between the lines. So as a student, as an employee, as a consumer in general, you have to be aware that you're going to be asked to come to logical conclusions based on the information that is provided. Sometimes that means you have to leave your personal opinion out of it and really just rely upon the clues that are given. So let's look at some more definitions on inferences. They are based on facts. You want to make sure that you're not using your own personal opinion or bias, but rather what is stated in the text. So for instance, we already talked about in the main idea chapter, sometimes we have to come to our own conclusion what the main idea is because the author has implied it. And so we have to use the clues and the details and the facts given to come to that logical conclusion. And so this acronym CLUES can help you make logical inferences. So it just goes through this acronym saying clues. When you're reading a paragraph or a text and you have to make an inference, make sure you first understand what's going on. What is the topic? What is the main idea? Look at the supporting details. How are they working together? What kind of information are they providing? Use only the facts to draw conclusions. As I mentioned, we don't want to rely on our opinions. And then see if the facts support your conclusion. Often in your writing courses, your speech courses, they'll say like, okay, you come to a conclusion, now support it. Use facts to support your conclusion. So that kind of goes with examine the facts and then support that conclusion. Beware of absolutes. So this is something that happens often in writing, when someone's in the public eye. They'll say things and they'll use these words like never, always, everyone, no one. And those are, you have to be careful using those type of words because you can't assume that everyone or no one knows or does something unless you have the facts to back it up. So if you said, I conducted a survey and 10 out of 10 people believe this, then yeah, you could say all of these people or every person because you have the facts to back it up. But if you've ever heard someone say, well, everyone knows that or no one does this, well, that's not true because unless they've surveyed everyone, then how are you supposed to know? This is kind of where some stereotypes come in. If you've ever heard of certain stereotypes like, all X, all women, all men, all whatever the case is, that's a really dangerous line to walk because there's no way someone knows every single woman or every single man or every single, career, whatever the case is. So here are some little bit more examples. No one can afford the cost of college these days. Well, that's not true. There are some of you who maybe right now you're paying out of pocket, no problem. Or there's some of you who are attending for free because you're a CCP student. At some point you took some classes in high school or you got some scholarships. So a more appropriate way of saying that is not everyone can afford. So the reason we talk about this is because authors will sometimes use absolutes to sway your opinion or your view on a topic. And so you just have to be careful of that and just be mindful of it in your own writing as well. Try not to use the words no one, never, always, everyone, unless you have proof to back that up. So again, we're talking about making inferences. We have these two words that are sometimes interchangeably used and they are different, infer and imply. Infer means to conclude or make an educated guess. Imply means to hint or suggest. So I always show this clip in my face-to-face classes, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and show it to you guys. It's only a couple of minutes. I use this to kind of demonstrate the difference between imply and infer. And this is a clip from The Big Bang Theory. It's been off the air for a couple of years now, but I still think it's kind of a fun little way to demonstrate knowing what imply is versus infer is. So I'm going to go ahead and play it for you.
Why people don't want to play with you?
No. Although it's a question I've been pondering since preschool.
Hey.
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 Hey, your copy of Science Magazine was in my mailbox.
Oh, thanks.
Check it out. All about planets this month.
That's an atom.
Agree to disagree. That's what I love about science. There's no one right answer.
So, you and Zach again, huh?
Yeah, me and Zach again.
Were we here earlier?
Okay, we should go.
Not yet. I want to talk science with the science dudes.
Oh, and the science dudes want to talk science with you.
What do you want to talk about? Rocks? Dinosaurs? Our friend the beaver?
You know, I saw this great thing on the Discovery Channel. Turns out that if you kill a starfish, it'll just come back to life.
Was the starfish wearing boxer shorts? Because you might have been watching Nickelodeon.
No, I'm almost sure that it was the Discovery Channel. It was a great show. They also said dolphins might be smarter than people.
They might be smarter than some people.
Well, maybe we can do an experiment to find out.
That's easy enough. We'd need a large tank of water, a hoop to jump through, and a bucket of whatever bite-sized treats you find tasty.
I don't get it.
A dolphin might.
Oh, I see. You guys are inferring that I'm stupid.
That's not correct. We were implying it. You then inferred it.
Okay, so I always love that clip. That show is very cute and funny. When Zach came in, they didn't come right out and say, "Hey, Zach, we think you're, a total idiot." They didn't come right out and say that. What they did was they're like, "Oh, you might have been watching SpongeBob, or dolphins are smarter than some people." And he eventually caught on. He eventually said, "Oh, you're inferring that I'm stupid." And they're like, no, we're not. We're implying it. Because that's what imply means, to hint or suggest. And then you arrive to a conclusion. So you do that when you read Main Ideas, and this is what this whole chapter is about, is coming to logical conclusions. So just knowing the vernacular is important. Imply means to hint or suggest. Infer means to come to that conclusion. So again, we can do this with images. If we look at this image, what's happening or what's about to happen in this photo, you could probably come to lots of logical conclusions. So it looks like there's a storm. It looks like, it might be a deserted type road, maybe not very highly traveled. But based on that picture, we can't make tons of inferences until we have a little bit more context. But that's the point of making inferences, is you want to make sure that you're only relying on the information that's given. So here's another quick example. You're sitting in a classroom and you look out the window to see someone running and carrying an umbrella. What can you infer? Hopefully that it's, raining or about to rain. If you walk by a classroom, everyone is diligently writing, the instructor is sitting silently at the front of the room. A logical conclusion is there's probably a test of some sort going on. So again, those are logical conclusions based on the facts that are given. One more quick little example. This woman says, "If you were my husband, I would take poison." The man says, "Madam, if you were my wife, I'd give it to you." The implication here is obviously there's not a very good relationship between these two people. All right, so let's take a look at some more examples using and making inferences. Here's a quick little Super Bowl commercial. Let's watch this. Okay, so in this commercial, the director, the producer, they didn't come right out and say, "Hey, this Tabasco sauce is so hot, it's going to blow up a bug if it drinks your blood." But that's what they were trying to imply, is that this is really hot Tabasco sauce. So as a consumer, as a viewer, we come to that inference like, "Oh man, if I like hot sauce, this might be the brand for me." Okay, so we can imply things through images, and then the viewer infers them. As a college student, we are likely to see it happen in text form. So I'm going to do 2 quick paragraph examples with you, and then I will embed these links inside the week in case you wanted to do the rest of these practices, as well as there's a second page. These are ones I would normally do in class as practices and examples with my students. So let's take a look at this paragraph here. It says, "The Compaq Computer Company once considered changing the press any key command on the screen to press return key because its technical support center received numerous calls from people who couldn't find the any key. One particular Compaq customer called to complain that her brand new computer wouldn't work. She said that she had unpacked the unit, plugged it in, and then sat there for 20 minutes waiting for it to come on. When the tech support employee asked her what happened when she pressed the power switch, she asked, "What power switch?" An annoyed Dell customer called the company to say that his keyboard would not work after he cleaned it by soaking it in a tub filled with soapy water for a day. An exasperated caller to IBM claimed to be having trouble printing documents. He said his computer was telling him it couldn't find printer. He reported that he had even turned the computer screen to face the printer, but his computer was still failing to see the printer. Another frustrated IBM customer called tech support after having trouble installing software. She said, "I put in the first disk and that was okay. It said to put in the second disk and I had some problems. When it said to put in the third disk, I couldn't even fit it in." She apparently did not realize that disk 1 must be removed before disk 2 can be inserted. The Canon company received a call from a woman claiming to have printer problems. The tech support employee asked her if it was run under Windows. She replied, "No, my desk is next to the door." But that's a good point. The man sitting in the cubicle next to me is under a window and his printer is working fine. Okay, so obviously it's a little dated, a lot dated, but I like this paragraph because it's humorous to me and there's still calls like this that happen all the time. So what can we logically infer from the details given in this paragraph? That the Compaq computer company receives large numbers of customer complaints, that calls for technical support suggest that some people know very little about computers, or computer companies cannot seem to make computers that are easy to use, and for that reason, technical support lines are constantly busy. So if I rely just on my details that are given, I know that they talk about more than just Compaq, and they're not just talking about the fact that people can't make these computers easy. They're talking about these calls are suggesting people really don't know a lot about computers. So that is an inference that we can make with support from the paragraph. Let's look at one more quick paragraph example here. And as I read, try to look at the options, try to see what is the logical inference, the logical main idea based on the implied main idea the author is providing. The high heel shoes that are so much in fashion right now are actually terribly unhealthy for women's feet. I'm guilty of wearing heels. They lift feet out of their natural position and shorten the Achilles tendons. They put damaging pressure on nerves and remove the feet's ability to stabilize the body and absorb the impact of heel strikes while walking. Therefore, women who regularly wear high heels often suffer from sprained ankles, arthritis, shin splints, bunions, toe deformities, and back pain. Yikes. But the exact opposite type of shoe, the popular flip-flop or thong sandal, is also bad for feet. Because flip-flops are flat and soft, they offer no support or protection. They can also easily catch on things and don't cause the wearer to trip and fall. Even athletic shoes can sometimes be unhealthy for feet. According to foot specialists, some of them don't provide enough cushioning for people with high arches. Others don't provide enough arch support for people with flatter feet. Therefore, they can cause tearing of body tissues, bruises, and sprained ankles. Ouch. All right, so is this author implying that shoes are actually bad for the human foot and we would all be better off going barefoot? That fashionable high-heeled shoes are bad for women's feet, but that doesn't stop women from wearing them? Or several of today's most popular shoe styles are unhealthy for the feet? Hopefully you can see that there's no support for just going barefoot, and it doesn't just focus on high heels. So this is the best inference based on that paragraph. Okay, and as I said, I'm going to go ahead and embed these in our content. I'm going to go ahead and put them in this area. You know what? I'm going to put them in the materials folder. So I'm going to go ahead and put the links in here and just label them as practice because you can take them, you can see, you can go through the rest of these, answer the questions, and hit submit and get some feedback. Same thing with this one right here. You can practice, take it on your own, hit submit, get some feedback. That way just a little bit additional practice, not required, but in case you're trying to kind of brush up on your making inferences. So while we're talking about inferences in the assignment area, we know we're posting the discussion board by Wednesday for week 7 attendance, but let's go ahead and pull up our practice sheet. Here is our homework for chapter 5. So I have it pulled up right here. And you can see that it has a couple paragraphs here with several questions that follow each one. So what you're going to do is you're going to read the paragraph and you're going to make inferences because it doesn't necessarily state any of these answers in there. So in this case, you're going to read the paragraph and it's going to say, what type of job does Paul do? Well, based on the paragraph, what do you think? How do you know that? Describe Alice. Why would you give her that description? And what relationship do they have? So again, for instance, they're going to give you clues. Like, look at this. His muddy boots, dusty overalls. Threw them into a plastic garbage bag. Alice left them on the porch railing every morning. And then he went to the washing machine and went straight upstairs to the shower as he was instructed. He would then eat dinner with her after he was presentable. So in this, there's not one right answer for a lot of these, as long as you can support it. So what type of job does Paul do? You can probably guess that he is some kind of maybe construction, something that's going to allow him to be getting dirty and dusty. So you would put that there unless you felt like it was something else, and you would tell me, how do you know this? If I were making the inference, I would say like potentially construction work. I know this because he comes home dirty, dusty, and unpresentable. Describe Alice. I would say that she's a neat freak. That's my inference. How would I support that? Well, she leaves garbage bags tied outside so that he does not come inside dirty, and he's not allowed to come to dinner until he is clean. What relationship do they have? I would make an inference that this is either a mother-son situation or a husband-wife situation. I could really see evidence of both, and so that's why I'm saying there's not necessarily a clear-cut right answer. The key is backing it up. So whatever you put right here, just make sure you back it up, right? And then you'll do that for the next several paragraphs. If they're fairly short, you'll just answer the questions that go along with them. So 10 questions total, several questions underneath each, selection there. So you're going to make sure you read and answer that, and you're going to submit that by Sunday, March 7th. All right, last thing to talk about, because we already know from the previous video that you're submitting your Chapter 5 vocabulary quiz by Sunday, March 7th as well. So let's talk about your Chapter 5 text and skill practice sheet. So we have that pulled up and ready to go. We're going to look through. It says Part A, www.frieswiththat.com. So I'm going to get back into my textbook. I'm going to go to reading number 1. I'm going to go straight to the reading. Here it is. So again, this is where I would recommend reading this, pausing the video, whatever works for you. Read the selection and we're going to talk about the questions. All right, I'm hoping that you've now paused and you've read the selection itself, and you'll see on your text sheet that we are answering multiple questions 2, 3, 7, and 9. So I'm going to go ahead and do number 2 with you. It says, a Manhattan real estate broker, Louis Friedman's main point about ordering food online is what? What is he saying? And he was toward the very, beginning here. He doesn't like calling up to order food because they get it wrong. So now he's ordering food online. He says, I'm in the driver's seat. So what implication does that make? Well, it sounds like he wants to be in control of what he wants to eat. So he's in complete control. So number 2 is D. He's in complete control because before he didn't really care for the fact that they got errors with his orders. I'll do one more with you. Number 3, in making fun of the American people, the comedian Jim Gaffigan, I don't know if anyone's ever listened to Jim Gaffigan, but they quote him here, in paragraph 5 is what? So if I scroll back up to paragraph 5, we can see he says, that's why we really love those value meals. He said, you just have to say a number. 2, soon you won't have to speak. It'll just be a noise. So what is he saying about, let me scroll down here, about like kind of making fun of us? Do we not mind waiting for hours for our food? The industry's push for online food will not be popular. They prefer convenience to quality, or they're overly conscious of our healthy food. To me, us going to fast food and just blurting out a number means we really like convenience to quality, because we know that too much fast food is not great for us. And so he's kind of teasing that as long as people can get their food quick, they don't care. Okay, so number 3 is C. So on your own, you're going to go ahead and answer questions 7 and 9, multiple choice. All right, from there, again, I'm using the text sheet here. We just did that part. From there, we are going to look at the biographical profile, and I mentioned, or I will mention, depending on what order you're watching these individuals in the vocabulary video. So we're going to go to page 235, which, again, navigating this online textbook is not my favorite thing to do. We're going to click on that and I get as close as I can, and then I scroll up. So here we go. You may never have heard of their names, but you probably use their product almost every day. Larry Page and Sergey Brin. What you're doing is you're going to read that biographical profile. It's rather quick. Something that always sticks out to me is just the fact that like how successful these people are now and how much they're worth. Starting something that was not initially supposed to like grow as big as it did. So after you read that, you're not going to answer any of the questions there. Don't pay attention to those. Your question for it is right here. In your opinion, what is the most interesting point made by the interviewees? So you're basically just telling me what was interesting to you. What was compelling, or what did you find maybe new or surprising? That's what you're filling out right there. All right, moving along, part C. After you're comfortable about the concept of making inferences, we're going to answer the questions on pages 238 to 240. So let me pull that back up. You can see right here. And here's all the passages. We're answering all of these. 238 to 240, you can see we're answering passage 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So let's take a look at passage 1. It goes all the way down there. All right. Let's take a look. I'm trying to see which one I normally don't mind doing. Let's look at passage 3. It's fairly quick in terms of like me being able to read to you on the video. Online banking was among the earliest and most successful web-based services. Not only can users get information about bank offices and hours and locations, types of accounts, rates, terms, and other bank products, but they can also access their account information, transfer funds, pay bills, plan an investment, retirement, or home loan refinance, and communicate with the bank. Investors can learn about bank assets and liabilities, stability, size, and investment. So what can we conclude from this passage? Can we conclude that online banking is not successful nowadays? That's not what I got from that at all, right? It's one of the most successful web-based services. Customers shy away from online banking because of the hidden charges. There's no evidence of that in there. Customers can access many useful pieces of information about their bank accounts from their homes. Sounds reasonable. Customers must attend a series of workshops before using it. Okay, no. So C is clearly the most reasonable conclusion we can make there. Passage 3 is C. So again, I'm looking here. Passage 3 is C. All right, so make sure you answer passage 1 and 2 right there. I just did 3. I'll do 5 with you as well. Some large stores and manufacturers are finding ways to personalize their websites. These sites usually encourage visitors to sign in or register for something or otherwise provide a name or nickname that the site can use when the visitor returns in the future. Amazon, for example, displays welcome back, whoever. The entry page has new books for whoever, based on searches or purchases the visitor made on previous visits. So what can we infer from that passage? That some manufacturers want to prevent potential customers from visiting their websites? Sounds like the opposite. They want people to come back. Some large stores are writing their customers' names on signboards. It's not even in there. Most people appreciate it when they are addressed by their names. Maybe. Many websites offer their customers free cookies when they sign in. Okay, so they're kind of making a play on words there because cookies are the things that store the information in your websites. So it is C. That's what the passage is kind of implying, that people appreciate being addressed by their names. So passage 5 is also, in this case, C. So make sure you do passage 1, 2, and 4. All right, moving on, you're going to go ahead and read this selection about China's richest man. So if I get back in here and I click here, get all through here. Here we go. Reading number 5. So you're going to go ahead and read, and this talks a lot about like Apple and its connection with China. So you're going to read that, and then you're going to get down to comprehension check here, and you're going to answer questions 4, 6, and 10. 4, 6, and 10. Let's do 4 together. He began to show his interest in computers since high school when he participated in numerous programming competitions. The reason I'm doing this one with you is because it's a vocabulary and context, and we don't necessarily have to have read the entire thing quite yet. The word numerous means, this is probably a logic type clue, but he participated in numerous competitions. Hopefully you can tell that numerous means existing in great quantity. So we would say that number 4 is C. All right, and then you're going to go ahead and, after you've read the selection, answer questions 6 and 10, which hopefully do so by reading the context. All right, last but not least on your text sheet is your TED Talk. So this is another one where if you wanted to go open to Google and type in, it usually comes up. Here we go. There we go. Jeff Bezos, electricity metaphor. You can listen to him, and this is from a while ago, so, and this was, he might have only been a millionaire then, as we know he is on his way to being oh my gosh, is it trillionaire now? I'm not sure. So he's worth quite a bit more, even from the time that he recorded this TED Talk. So you, as usual, are welcome to listen or read or do a little bit of both, the TED Talk. Once you are through with the TED Talk, you are going to answer, and this is on the back of your text sheet, you're going to answer the short answer questions, numbers 3 and 4. Okay, number 3 and 4. All right. When you're done with that, of course, you want to make sure that you, get back in here, submit it by Sunday. Okay. If you have any questions, please feel free and reach out. Have a great week.